it is now 6:31 on August 14th, 2023. This is the opening of the Norton Conservation Commission regularly scheduled meeting, and as is required, we will read the preamble because this is a remote access meeting.
Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 bill extending several COVID-era policies and programs by allowing virtual meetings to continue from March 31st, 2023 to March 31st, 2025, this meeting of the Norton Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the end of this agenda. Members of the public attending this public hearing/meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by raising their hand virtually or pressing *9 if participating by phone. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Norton Cable website, www.nortonmediacenter.org, an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting.
Thank you, Dan. So we have participating members of the commission tonight, myself, Julian Kadish, Chair, Lisa Carrozza, Vice Chair, and Ron O'Reilly, Tom Avest, Mark Fernandez, Dan Pearson, and I think I got everybody. And our director is here, John Thomas, and our assistant, Megan are up. So our first item on the agenda is a new public hearing, file number 250-1133, a request for resource area delineation and involving 55 Newland Street. Do we have a representative of the applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Andrew Gorman from Beals and Thomas here on behalf of the Daggett Crandall Newcomb home. Also with me on this call is Ken Crisafulli on behalf of the applicant, as well as Dan Gagne, a professional engineer with Beals and Thomas. If it's all right with you, I'd like to start by sharing my screen.
You're all set, Andrew.
All righty. I'm going to try to do this. I'm just going to start by pulling up Mass Mapper to get us oriented to the property. This is a 55 Newland Street comprised of 4 separate parcels that we're going to be looking at. We have a larger property here to the north, and for orientation purposes, Newland Street is this road here. Commissioners may be familiar with the Red Mill Road trail network that passes through here and heads off in the easterly direction along the Canoe River. The existing Daggett Crandall Newcomb home right here. And then the parcels in question for the subject of this notice of resource area delineation, we have the northerly forested parcel here and here, along with some open fields. We have some more forested areas to the south, as well as the property itself, the house. And I'm going to pull up our plan view so you can have a sense of where our resource areas are and what we're asking to be confirmed this evening. We have multiple bordering vegetated wetlands that are jurisdictional under the Act. So north is to our plan left here, and this is the Canoe River, sort of abutting the property just off-site a little bit. We have a bordering vegetated wetland B and D. These are in the northerly portions of the property. It's that saturation that we saw in the wooded areas. We have a larger BVW that's central to the overall locus, the H series, just north of that Red Mill Road trail area. And then we have our I, L, and M series BVWs. They connect off-site and are contiguous with the Canoe River. as well as the Canoe River itself. We have a splash of riverfront area that's on locus. I'm going to zoom in quickly. Just a little bit of riverfront area that nicks this triangular shaped portion of the property here on the easternmost portion, so the top of the map. And then we have a small little crevice of riverfront area wedged between the L series and our M series. In addition to our BVW delineations, we also delineated a number of isolated vegetative wetlands, which we understand are not necessarily jurisdictional under the Wetlands Protection Act. However, we are showing them in compliance with the plan requirements. That is our A series isolated wetland here in the northern portion of the property. Our E series isolated wetland, that's sort of north of the middle field here and east of the northern field. Our C series, which extends off-site to the east. Along the Red Mill Road Trail, we have a G series IVW and an F series IVW. On the southern portion of the property, we have a J series, which is almost touching the I series, but there's a berm between the two of them. We have a Q series IVW, this odd lobster claw shape, which abuts the trail network. A P series IVW, a K series IVW, an O series IVW, and an N series IVW. And two more resource areas that we'd like to discuss with you tonight. There's also bordering land subject to flooding on the property. That is this pink dashed line here is Zone A as depicted by FEMA. It doesn't extend on the property over here. We do have some which clips the D series and its buffer zone. And we also perform detailed isolated land subject to flooding calculations, just because this entire site is riddled with depressions, and some of them are isolated wetlands, some of them are just upland depressions. So we took a very detailed approach to looking at, I think, 47 different depressions, which we've included the bulk of that research in this filing. And after that, we concluded that the G series, based on field observations and the supplemental data, we confirmed that the G series does meet the criteria for isolated land subject to flooding and therefore is jurisdictional under the Act. So in a nutshell, that is what we are seeking to confirm with this order of resource area delineation request. And I'm happy to go to any specific plan sheets that have the individual plan numbers, or flag numbers, I'm sorry, and discuss the property in general if commissioners have any questions.
All right, opening it up to either all commission members and John, or John, if you want to start, or any questions?
Yeah, I mean, for the resource evaluations, the field determinations, I had no issues with any of that. All the flags seemed pretty good with the delineation technique, and the resource area site visit went well. You know, there are some potential vernal pools out there that Andrew has indicated do, I guess, possess standing water at some periods of time. And then the isolated land subject to flooding, you know, I did send him over the criteria that the Conservation Commission does based all their evaluations on. And, you know, that was kind of the discussion that we had, and they presented that information to us.
All right, any commission members have specific questions?
Yeah, Andrew, would you mind calling up the FEMA map, please? Thank you.
The aerial photo, sorry?
The FEMA map,
Oh,
please.
the FEMA map.
So it looks like it was just an A zone, not an AE.
Yep, I'm not sure I can pull up the FEMA map, but I can also pull it up on the plan. It is a zone A, which means there's no elevation determined.
Right, so it's not an AE. So that
Right.
what that means is, according to the regulations, the burden of proof is for you to establish it on the site. I don't know how you established it. It's so, you know, typically it follows an elevation. Whether you do a HEC-RAS to analyze that flooding associated with the river. I don't know how you're going to go about telling us what it is, because just based on the look of it, it doesn't even follow an elevation. So
Right.
it's,
And
right.
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I can explain our approach a little bit.
Yep.
Yep. So as far as the bordering land subject to flooding, What we're really looking to confirm in this is that it does not exceed the wetland boundary or its 100-foot buffer zone. If we were to do a detailed flood evaluation, to your point, we would go through and perform an engineering analysis and arrive at an elevation, and then we would anchor our 100-year floodplain on that line specifically. So you're absolutely correct. We're just looking for confirmation that it is not in the, I guess, what I would call the non-jurisdictional upland areas. And as far as where the line work came from, I can say definitively that what we did was digitize the FEMA Zone A line. Really, it's not something that's make or break for us in confirming that. I think the priority for us really is the resource area delineation boundaries, but we are looking to confirm that it doesn't extend into the upland areas. However, we're happy to have a discussion if the commission wants to leave that on the table for future permitting interactions.
Well, I'm a little confused by this. So there's no way we can opine whether it goes into an upland area. Just you haven't assigned an elevation to it, correct?
Yeah, I think in a technical sense, you're absolutely correct that we would be, I think, we would not be able to seek a definitive flood elevation from the commission and therefore a concrete answer as to where that line lies. Should it be necessary for us to undertake that during a permitting effort, we certainly could.
Then we can't issue an ANRAD because it does not disclose all of the resource areas on site. We're not just going to leave off the flood zone, right? So you're asking for confirmation of presence, absence, and location of all resource areas subject to the Wetlands Protection Act. So right now, that would be like coming into us and saying, well, we haven't finished the delineation yet. You're just going to have to trust us that we'll add some more flags when we come in to do permits. So you see the position it puts us in is that we can't issue unless we know definitively where the flood zone is.
I've had some permitting interactions where we've taken the bordering land subject to flooding off of our request, and we're certainly willing to do that in the absence of a flood study. I don't want to seem like I'm trying to force the commission's hand and ask for something, you to confirm something that we're not providing the data with. Really, I think the meat and potatoes of what we're trying to accomplish, and if I could even withdraw that portion of our application to just specifically omit the bordering land subject to flooding, that might be a better path forward for us if the commission is satisfied with the other components that we're displaying.
Okay, so John Thomas, we're going to have to talk about this from a regulatory perspective because I don't think we've ever issued an ORAD saying, yeah, we're just, we're going to issue it for BVW, ILSF, riverfront, but not flood zone. So
I mean, if they're asking for not for confirmation of the resource area itself, obviously we would condition that this resource area has not been confirmed in an ANRAD, and we'd make note of that, and know that, for instance, if for instance this project was to go through for any sort of potential next phase, that would need to be fleshed out and evaluated thoroughly. If that's the position that the commission felt. Otherwise, it needs to get fleshed out now. I think that there's two options here that we could go through, but call it out in the conditions stating that this resource area has not been confirmed. It's like kind of the same thing where we would, evaluate the potential for certified vernal pools and potential vernal pools, is that we call it out saying that they indicate the presence of potential vernal pools, but later on it needs to be fleshed out as whether they're deemed certifiable.
Okay, so in that case, I would ask you to remove all references to the 100-year flood and bordering land subject to flooding on this plan in the A zone, so that when we do issue the ORAD, it will just be for the set, and we will make note that it doesn't include BLSF.
Yeah, and I would second that. I think,
Okay.
the information value of that purple line that was established by a much coarser technology. I assume it was I don't know. I mean, was it by flyovers and aerial maps and then?
What it means is FEMA has not established an elevation associated with the flood zone. So they either publish A zones, which is just meaning 100-year flood exists somewhere or is associated with this river. We don't know the elevation. We haven't mapped it enough. And then
Right.
they issue, right. So then, then the alternate side of that is they issue an AE zone. They publish an AE, which is here's the elevation. So when it's just an A zone, the burden of proof is on the applicant to determine what the flood zone is in the absence of FEMA publishing an elevation. So they just drawing it off of scaling it off of a flood map doesn't cut it anymore.
Right. I agree. But what is being presented in some of these maps is elevations, and the purple line, as you say, has no valid relationship to those elevations. So it's the information is conflicting. The fact that you have these floods going into established uplands, as established by the limited elevations that you provide. So it makes no sense. So I think it should be removed. And I agree 100% with you that it should be pointed out that this process does not establish land subject to flooding.
I would state land subject to flooding could be also isolated and also bordering. So I think what they're trying to do with this ANRAD is also confirm the areas which may be subject to isolated land subject to flooding as well.
That is correct. Specifically the G series based on the calculations that we performed.
So what you're saying is that does not have a hydrologic connection, but it is subject to flooding, and it is not jurisdictional with regard to having a buffer.
Correct in terms of a 100-foot buffer zone would not be applied to it under the Act. However, based on the calculations that our team put together, it would be a jurisdictional wetland resource area as isolated land subject to flooding.
Okay. But establishing the floodplain is a different process.
Correct. As far as the floodplain goes, that refers to kind of two separate terms. Isolated land subject to flooding is this singular feature that's not contiguous with the waterway, and then the bordering land subject to flooding would be whatever elevation a flood study would yield to this Canoe River waterway here.
All right, but if we go to a plan with some elevations, because you had a plan with elevation, and for example, you have on the right side of the screen, you have a flood, suggested flood line extending into upland. Although you don't have all the elevations there.
This is off property. We don't have permission to ask any confirmation or review here. Our site is this red line here. So
okay.
Yep.
But so you're saying there could in fact be wetlands in that zone?
There could in fact be wetlands over here, and in fact there is a certified vernal pool map over here within the C series, and we're not contesting that. We just can't opine on it one way or the other.
All right, so that doesn't necessarily mean upland. I had assumed that it was upland, and therefore, but you're saying that's not relevant to your filing.
It's just not something that we could comment on from a capacity as a landowner.
All right, any further questions, comments from anybody in the hearing?
The question, John Thomas, is do we want a plan set returned to us with all the references missing? All references deleted, excuse me, with BLSF?
I guess, one of the things that they could do is label the Zone A, as they have here highlighted, as approximate, and that way it's not confirmable. And we'll say that the approximate BLSF line will be determined subject to prior to the filing of any additional notice of intent or anything like that. More typical of how we would do it for vernal pools and such.
Okay. I just want the applicant to have clear direction on what we'd like. So
Understood.
okay.
Yeah, and also pending, I guess, any sort of ORAD to be issued, we will be identifying which isolated areas do contain PVP habitat too as well.
So if there are no, go
Sorry,
ahead.
if I could just ask a follow-up question, I understand that we would also have the ability, if we were to undertake a springtime evaluation, that we could then submit that documentation as part of our review if it is definitive one way or the other. Otherwise, we would go in with the assumption.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
So if there are no further questions, I have a question for you, John, and that is, considering the discussion, do you have adequate information to produce the ORAD minus the flood zone information?
I mean, I have reviewed all the wetland flags with the applicant's representative, and I have looked at the areas that I would call out as being PVP habitat. I have looked at the ILSF calculations. It looked like IVWG was definitely an area that was ILSF. There are a couple other borderline areas, but the groundwater modeling didn't seem to match up with a lot of that from what I could assess. But besides that, I think I do have enough information to take a look at some other stuff and get something together for the next meeting.
So what I'm hearing is we can consider closing this tonight.
I would position the commission if they felt comfortable doing so, they could.
Yeah, just we wouldn't issue until receipt of the plans with the note on it about the LSF. That's all.
Correct.
Okay. Is that okay, Andrew?
Yeah, certainly, we can
Okay.
definitely produce that revised plan.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for file 250-1133.
Lisa makes a motion to close, seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Tama. So roll call vote, and we will begin with Ron and Tama.
Aye.
All right. So that looked like an aye from Ron as well. And Lisa and Mark
Aye.
Aye.
and Dan.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. The motion carries. The hearing for file number 250-1133 is closed. So presumably we'll have an ORAD to consider for the next meeting, and that would be the 28th of August.
Thank you so much for your time this evening. We look forward to it.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commission. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Ken.
Thanks, John.
All right, our next item on the agenda is does not have a file number yet. It came through most recently, but it concerns a notice of intent for South Worcester and East Hodges Street, concerning 4,500 linear feet of water main replacement, I believe, on South Worcester Street, as well as 2,130 feet of replacement on East Hodges. And it's for the town of Norton. Do we have a representative?
Absolutely. Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you
Yes.
loud and clear.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for allowing us to present this project. My name is Devin Herrick. I'm an environmental scientist with Weston and Sampson, here representing the town of Norton. We have a few introductions, I believe, for others that are on the call. Tara, did I see that you were on the call, and would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Devin. Tara McManus from Weston Sampson, project manager for this project.
And I believe I also saw Jordan from Weston and Sampson. Jordan, you want to take a second to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jordan. I'm an environmental scientist from Weston and Sampson in the Permitting Group.
And I don't believe we were expecting a representative from the Water and Sewer Department, but if anyone else from the team has joined, please feel free to chime in. All right. Well, seeing none, if you don't mind, I'll begin with some brief background information. In an effort to upgrade the town of Norton's water infrastructure, the town is proposing to replace the existing unlined cast iron water mains along South Worcester Street and the cement water mains along East Hodges Street. Here is a USGS map showing the locations of these two proposed work areas within the town. Here we have a map showing some of the resources areas present on East Hodges Street. As you can see, there are wetlands and water bodies within close proximity to the roadway. We also have a map showing some of the resource areas present on South Worcester Street, also wetlands and water bodies in close proximity, including 2 perennial stream crossings. These perennial stream crossings will not be impacted as part of the proposed water main work. All work is proposed to remain within the limits of the roadway. The proposed project scope will include a 4,500 linear feet of water main on South Worcester Street that will be replaced with a 12-inch ductile iron water main with an additional 400 linear feet of structural liner, as well as 2,130 linear feet of water main in East Hodges Street that will be replaced with an 8-inch ductile iron water main. And just to reiterate, this proposed project will occur entirely within the paved roadway, and once the project is complete, the area will return to pre-existing conditions. The water main replacement work will include the average excavation of approximately a 5-foot wide by 6-foot deep trench, and after the installation of the new water main, the trench will be backfilled with the suitable backfill material and compacted at the end of each day. Temporary pavement will be installed at the end of each week. And then at the end of the project, the impacted road will be repaved to full width. The water services will be replaced from the new main to the existing curb stop, and installation of new hydrants and valves on the new water main. If dewatering is needed for this project, it will be pumped into a dewatering basin that will be constructed of straw bales around the perimeter with fabric filter lining the bottom and edges of the basin, and into a proprietary dewatering catchment system. The filtered water will either flow into an existing stormwater system or will be allowed to naturally infiltrate back into the ground, trapping any sediment that might be present due to the trenching and dewatering process. As part of the water main replacement and work, catch basin protection will be used to prevent sediment from entering the stormwater system. All deposited sediment will be removed periodically throughout the project to allow predicted precipitation to free drainage. And where available, road curb will act as to prevent sedimentation from migrating off the road. Straw bales will be inspected as needed prior to predicted precipitation to make sure their effectiveness is present, and accumulated sediment will be removed periodically and as needed during construction. There will be temporary impacts to 2 wetland resources that will be bordering land subject to flooding and riverfront area. This proposed project will result in 553 square feet of impact to bordering land subject to flooding and 58,847 square feet of impact to riverfront area. These impacts have been minimized to the maximum extent practicable by limiting the work to within the roadways and avoiding those impacts to the perennial streams. Once the project is complete, the area will return to those pre-existing conditions. This work will require work within that 25-foot no disturb zone. It's just due to the close proximity of the wetland resources to the existing roadway. At this time, we have not received a response on our submission to Natural Heritage, although we do not anticipate any issues with the species state, given that the work will be confined to the roadway. Also, we're aware that the DEP file number hasn't been issued yet. Looking on the data portal, the DEP comment indicated that the proposed work is located within ACEC, which we are aware of. This can be seen on our environmental resource mapping. And the data portal indicates that the DEP is waiting for additional information. We did reach out to Andrew just to see what other information they're requesting, but we haven't heard back yet. We were thinking maybe the town might have heard what else the DEP is looking for that we could provide to them. But in the meantime, thank you very much for allowing me to present. And if there are any questions, we would be happy to answer them.
You didn't specifically mention any difficulties with the stream crossings. Do you have comments about that?
Tara, do you have any anticipated issues coming up with regards to the engineering side of things?
We don't actually. We're structurally lining the existing water main, so we're going to dig test pits on both sides, approximately 20 feet away from the stream crossing. So we're just basically going to reuse the existing pipe that's in the ground. So we're not going to be doing that. Any issues with that? So no issues.
Okay. Any other questions among commission members, or John, do you have any issues you want to bring up?
I think it would be good just to show the commission the site plans and just show them up on the plan and screen, and show exactly the amount of limit of work that's going to be within the existing roadway, and just kind of give them a sense as to kind of those calculations seem pretty excessive, I guess, with the riverfront, just to kind of give them a sense as to, you know, how much less of an impact it is more than kind of what you're showing on the screen.
Absolutely. Let me see if I can get this screen to move over for me. All right, I think you should be able to see the plan set in theory. This is a copy of the notice of intent that was submitted. So this is the plan set on the end. So we can kind of walk through it. And Tara, feel free to throw in any comments you might have as we're moving through. This is the work on South Worcester Street. So you'll see that we have our resource areas colored, 100-foot buffer zone shown in that pink, the 100-foot riverfront area in the dark green, 200-foot riverfront area in the light green, 25-foot no disturb in yellow, the bordering vegetated wetlands and isolated vegetated wetlands in blue, and the bank in the aqua color. So I'll just kind of move us through. Please shout out any questions you might have.
Yeah, Jordan, sorry, Devin, I'll just add in here that we are within the town right away. So we are actually, the majority of the pipeline route is within, you can see it right here. It's all within the paved right of way. So we're actually, and again, the riverfront area, there's no impact to that because we will be reusing the existing water main through that section. So no culvert crossings or any kind of digging under or over or anything like that. We're going to reuse the existing water main that goes. I think for both of these crossings, it's underneath the existing culvert.
And when you're excavating, I'm assuming you're excavating into trucks, which will move the material away. You're not stockpiling on the road, side of the road, or anything like that. Is that correct?
We will be temporarily stockpiling at the throughout the construction. There will be at the end of each day, though, 100% backfilling. They basically move a truck forward, same as most of the pipeline projects that you've seen in Norton. We'll excavate, we'll backfill, compact, and then move forward. So there will be no stockpiling materials at the end of each day. There will be no issues there. And if there's any kind of concerns with any of the work within the stretch that's considered, within the 100-year flood zone or within the riverfront, we will be compacting that up to grade. There will be an open trench till the end of the week, but we will be having silt sacks in each of the catch basins, and we do not anticipate any kind of runoff or any kind of issues with all of our erosion control, sediment control that we have out here on the site.
Can you point out the flood zones?
Let's see, the 100-year flood zone, it wasn't shown on this first sheet, but we can move on to the second sheet. It's shown in this dotted line just here. And so let's see if I'm able to point that out just here, going like this, and here, this,
Okay.
a little bit more here.
So, John Thomas, maybe we just want to add a condition that says no stockpiling material from the flood zone.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then, while we're at it, so you have a really narrow right of way. You mentioned dewatering locations. So where are you going to allow the contractor to do that? Because it doesn't look like there's any room. So
Yeah,
if you don't know, and you're taking a swag, we can just condition it that says that the contractor will come before us with a dewatering plan, which I always think is the easiest thing to do because I know you can't guess.
100% agree with that. So we would love to just put it on the onus of the contractor for that. Typically, I guess we're in unprecedented times with the amount of water we've seen these days, but in groundwater, with a water main project, we are usually within with 6 feet depth of excavation. So we typically do not see any kind of concerns, but certainly, we'd rather put it on the onus of the contractor and go forth with their, our conservation kickoff meeting with the pre-construction, work with John on how to handle that.
I mean, do you think there are any viable locations? Does the town own any properties along here that they could maybe use? But otherwise, if you can just put it into the spec as well, and then we'll condition it, that would be great.
Yeah, the specs are typically that no work, no kind of storage of materials or equipment shall be within the 100-year, within the 100 feet of the wetlands. Any other conditions you want to put on top of that, we have no problems with that. Typically, the contractor will reuse the soil that they're excavating with, so we normally don't have any kind of concern about stockpiling materials. It's more or less temporary within like 20 to 30 minutes. If there's some kind of concern with rain events or whatnot, again, with all of this area, we have all of our sediment control measures in place at all times, and they are required to clean up the site at the end of each day.
Right. Okay. Yeah. My only concern about the flood zone is if there's a flash flood and they're gone for the weekend, or just leaving anything there. That's
Yeah,
all.
they should have no stockpiles anywhere near this. In fact, actually, they're not required. They're not even allowed to keep stockpile anywhere within this job site. They will have to have a lay-down yard, which will be off-site somewhere else.
Okay. Yeah, John Thomas, that was my other comment, is along with the dewatering plan, if they can identify a lay-down yard associated with the project, because if it's in proximity, it's considered part of the construction site that they have to inspect as part of the SWIP. So you can just add that, that would be fantastic.
We will do that.
Thank you.
I'll continue clicking through, but please stop me with any questions. Again, still South Worcester Street. We move to East Hodges Street. Cross-sectional details, details of crossings, water detail sheets, some of our erosion control specs or details rather, and that is the end of the sheet back.
You typically, I hate to see straw bales because they degrade, they get so wet and so saturated you can't pick them up afterwards. Is there any way you could substitute a compost filter tube?
100%. We actually typically do that.
Okay. Yeah, if you could replace that detail, that would be great. Is there curbing along either street?
For the most part, no, it's country drainage, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, that's all the more reason why you're gonna have to have something there. So if you could just replace that with a compost filter tube or equivalent, that would be good.
Sure.
And when do you expect the work to start? Do you have any idea?
Once we get permits all through, we have a railroad actually at the beginning of the project, a railroad permit. That does take a little bit of time, but our intent would be to bid this job this year, start this fall hopefully, and then continue into next year. It's about it should be completed within a 6-month period of time, and then we'll have the paving as well.
Thank you.
All right, so if there are no further questions or comments, so John, I'm kind of anticipating that there is sufficient information presented so that we can close.
We're still waiting on a DP number, by the way, just so that way you're
Yeah.
aware.
Right, and so it would be better to continue, get the number, to be sure DP has no comments, and then.
Yeah, I would suggest that.
Can't close without the number.
But I can, in the interim, I can start up drafting an order for the commission in light of the issuance of a DP number for the next meeting.
Is it possible that we could request, assuming no concerns on DEP's end, that we could have the commission vote on approving this project without having the DEP come with it?
No.
Okay.
Well, it's not going to change things at all because John will be putting together an order of conditions, and we would be voting on that next time. And we can't vote on it until we have an order to review. So it's not going to delay things if we continue and then close next time and vote on the order.
Understood. I just, for the purpose of the town, I'm just making sure we don't have too many engineers on the next call.
Yeah,
Okay,
only one of you needs to attend the next meeting.
Great, thank you.
okay, so, I think we have enough information to consider a motion to continue until,
So moved.
20th. So, motion by Dan, continue, and seconded by Lisa. A roll call vote again, starting with Ron and Dan,
Aye.
Aye.
and Tama and Mark,
Aye.
Aye.
and then Lisa, and I'll throw in an aye.
Bye.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is continued public hearings. First item is file number 250-1132, notice of intent for 6 Mary Jo Road. And there was a request for continuance, so it's Natural Heritage, I guess, has not responded.
No, they want a turtle habitat study, so.
Okay. All right, well, we can consider a motion for continuation, I'm assuming until the next meeting.
It's
on
actually September 11th that they're asking to continue till.
I don't have anything indicated on my agenda. Sean, do you?
No, I don't have that either. So it's September 11th. That's what he asked.
They
for.
sent it after I posted the agenda.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing for file 250-1132 to the September 11th meeting.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Dan. Again,
Yes.
roll call vote, starting with Ron and Dan,
Aye.
Aye.
and Mark and Tama,
Aye.
Aye.
and Lisa,
Aye.
and I'll throw in an aye. Motion carries. And next item is file number 250-1128, 36 Dean Street, Goose Brook Garage. We had pretty much completed everything, I thought, last time around.
Yeah, you just asked for the applicant's representative to be on the call, and they are here this evening. We have Ken Gilchrist and Dan Orwig representing the project. So they're here. So if you have any questions for them, I know that I drafted up a draft order for the commission, but if you have any questions for them, they're here to answer anything that needs to be said.
John, did they update the plan to show the end stabilization criteria?
Oh, I don't think that they did, but we can definitely have them do that for us.
This is Dan Orwig from Orwig Associates. What was one revision that you would like?
Oh, we just needed the plan just needed a call out to show when you walk away and the project is done, what the ground cover looks like. You know, that you're going to reseed it or restabilize it, reestablish it. That was missing from the plan.
Okay, we can do that. It's
Okay.
It's right now, except for the trees that are being removed where the concrete pad is for DEP. The area is all devoid of vegetation. But we would seed or sod the area of disturbance for the septic system.
Okay.
So if
I guess the condition that I basically could state is that prior to the issuance of any pending order, they would send over the revised plan, and I would put that as the final date, pending the okay from the commission for that, just so that way everybody's aware.
That's fine.
So unless there are further questions, I think we can consider a motion to close.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for file 250-1128.
Second.
Motion made by Lisa, seconded by Tama. Roll call vote, beginning with Tama and Mark,
Aye.
Aye.
and Ron and Dan,
Aye.
and Lisa.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. The motion carries. That completes our public hearings, and I believe we have,
Thank you very much.
oh, you're very welcome.
You,
So I guess we'll go into, we have, oh yes, so that's all right. So next thing is amended order of conditions for file number 250-1172 44 Bay Road. And there was a note that we
They requested a continuance again until the next meeting. They're still waiting back to hear from Natural Heritage as well.
right. Okay. So again, that would be to our next meeting, which would be August 28th.
That's correct.
All right, we can consider that that motion.
I'll make a motion to, was that an open public hearing, John?
It was. We did open it. They did. It's an amendment, so they did
Okay.
have to do all that. So yes.
Continue the public hearing, file 250-1072 until the August 28th meeting.
Second.
second,
All right, motion by Lisa, seconded by Tama. Again, roll call vote, starting with Tama and Mark,
Aye.
Aye.
and Dan and Ron,
aye,
and Lisa.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, motion carries. Next item is, not sure I understand this item. 250-873 West Main, which seems to correspond to Butch Rich's previous residence.
It is.
And what was invalid about, we issued a certificate, but
Yes, so you did. So, the is an interesting kind of situation here is that so the area that was, I guess, the part of the hot dog stand that was previously permitted through the commission, that was, I guess, approved and they put in a hot dog stand, but then afterwards they remediated the area back to, I guess, they reconverted it back to an existing lawn. So technically, it's kind of like an invalid COC because the permit has expired, but it's back to pre-existing conditions, which is an interesting kind of situation here.
but we issued a certificate of compliance. You're saying further work was done because the hot dog stand was removed?
Well, I didn't have a certificate of compliance for this project.
Oh. Okay, so the orders of conditions expired
Order of conditions expired, yes.
without a COC.
Without a COC, yes. But they reverted it back to, I guess, lawn. And now that, for instance, they're trying to close out on the property.
Yeah.
And the situation that we currently have is it's not a hot dog stand anymore. It's just kind of pre-existing conditions. There's no gravel. There's no nothing. They cleaned up the whole entire area, and it's now grass.
I noticed that.
John, I'm confused about the expiration of the order. What does that have to do with the COC?
So for instance, when I issue a COC, I can't approve that the work was done per how it was originally proposed. So technically it's an invalid COC because it doesn't show what was previously done. They've kind of just changed their mind and reverted it back. So the work was done, but it's back to pre-existing. It's very confusing, but there's no option for me to say that they remediated the site back to previous conditions. So the only other option is this invalid COC, which means that that's just the route that it understands in the when you issue the COC.
But it's not like they left it worse. I mean, it's not like they left it degraded, right? They left it.
No, it's not. And that's what I'm going to put in the comments. I'm going to say that basically in the comments, I'm going to say they reverted the site back to previous conditions. And that's what I'm going to put in there.
Yes. Okay.
It's a very interesting scenario, but that's the checkbox I need to check. And I've never done that before.
So you have a route. We just have to vote on it.
Yes, that's correct. And I believe that Ron is not able to vote on this one, so he'll have to abstain.
So, John Thomas, what is the motion? It's not for an invalid COC. What's the motion?
That's a good question. That's what I actually wanted to ask you all. to kind
I'm
of-
gonna propose, that we someone offer a motion to approve the administrative, task that John has agreed to do with regard to this particular project.
So, but I'm sorry, am I correct that the work was done and then it was essentially undone, right?
Yes,
And
it was
so
undone. Correct.
Are we issuing the order of compliance, the certificate of compliance to say that the work was done satisfactorily at some point in time?
Yes, I think that's the part of it is to say that it was done satisfactorily at some point in time, and then it was undone. So I think that's
You can use the word restored.
restored. Yeah.
Restored is kind of a footnote to the fact that the work was done satisfactorily. Is that right?
It contradicts one another, by the way, just so we're clear.
Nothing's clear here, but we're trying.
But I don't see a problem unless we want to submit something to the legislature, which we probably don't want to do. So I think we should approve John's proposed administrative action.
Okay, I'm gonna try to make this motion, I guess. I'll make a motion to issue a COC. With what, John Thomas? I don't know, I guess recognizing that the work was done and the area was restored, everything's stable for
Sounds good.
50-800.
Looking for a second.
I will second that motion.
Okay.
Sounds beautiful to me.
Motion made by Lisa, seconded by Tama. Roll call vote. Beginning with Dan and Mark
Aye.
Aye.
and Tama and Lisa.
Aye.
And we're going to register an abstention for Ron, and I'll throw in an aye as well.
Could we just go over that just briefly? Motion to issue a COC recognizing that the work was done and that the site has been restored.
Satisfactorily restored, consistent with the Wetland Protection Act.
Thank you.
I like it.
All right, so next item is
Thank you.
You're welcome.
next item is an NRAD 1D Street, Rob Salberti, and relatively short. Any comments on paperwork? Anybody want to go over anything specific, or are we all set? So unless I hear questions, I'll be fishing for a motion for file number 250-1126, an ORAD. Do we need to bring it up on the screen? Can anybody hear me out there?
I can hear you,
I can
Julian.
hear
you.
I don't know if you guys want to bring it up on the screen. Let me know.
There's just a minor typo in number 4 within. The little red lines give it away.
All right.
Oh, I think I saw that, yeah.
Within? I see it. Okay. Do you want me to bring it up on screen, or are we all good?
I'm good, and it sounds like you'll had a chance to review it. All right, somebody be daring and make a motion to approve with that minor correction.
I'll make a motion to, oh,
Sorry, I was gonna make a motion to accept the ORAD with a minor correction for DEP number 250-1126.
Motion made by Tama and seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Mark. So again, roll call vote, starting with Lisa and Ron,
aye.
Aye.
and Mark and Dan,
Aye.
Aye.
and Tama,
Aye.
and I'll throw in an aye, and the motion carries. Next item is well, it's not in our agenda, but it is the order of conditions for Goose Book Garage.
Did everyone have a chance to look at the conditions? Do you want
But
me
when
to?
was this for? It's not on the agenda, or is this?
Well, no, it is on the agenda, but it was in the materials that was sent out, and I think it was on the Google Drive as well.
I can bring it up on screen if anyone wants to see it.
Yes, please.
Okay, give me 1 second. Can everyone see this screen?
We can.
Okay. Do you want me to zoom in?
If it's readable for me,
Okay. Actually, I can zoom out a little bit here.
I thought this is the meeting minutes.
say again, I didn't.
You thought this was the meeting?
I thought.
Yeah, I think it's a little out of order. That's why I was confused as well.
I thought we were looking at the 7:10 meeting minutes.
That is the next thing on the agenda.
Yeah,
I
but-
think Julian said, or John said that this OOC isn't on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
This was the one we just closed out. We talked about it last time, saying that if they showed up, we'd issue the
Okay.
OOC at that time too. And that's
Okay.
kind of, and you know, they showed up, so.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, much of this is boilerplate. Is there anything, I mean, I didn't see anything that is,
Except for that is not.
Where is it? Is not, Dan.
There's, it's a little bit lower down. You passed by it. Keep going down. Keep going down.
no, it's actually number 2. You're saying the property is not located within priority habitat and therefore is not subject to.
Number 4.
Oh, and numbers,
There's
Yeah.
a space there. An
Okay.
extra Space.
Here, where it says is not located.
Yes, and also later on in the same sentence.
So some reason why, I don't know why this is, but whenever I put Word documents into Google Drive, it changed the formatting for some reason. And it does it a lot. So what's reflected here with the formatting, I don't know why it does this. But I think the main critical thing that I wanted to basically have was with the project findings here, was that actually I need to change this. It's not Nicola Fasandola. Thank you. I need to change this. That's from a previous one. Apologies. This is Daniel Orwig. Is that they, would the commission would find that, for instance, the work that they're proposing is approximately 4,600 square feet of alteration within the riverfront area. And they have the total riverfront area on the site is estimated to be 265,000 square feet. So you're definitely below the 10% threshold. So that way, for instance, you are allowed to approve this project, provided that the commission feels comfortable with it, because it is under the 10% threshold.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem. Are we gonna add something, John, that says all disturbed areas should be loamed and seeded?
Yes.
Okay.
Where would you like to add that to? Do you want to find it under project findings?
Probably not findings. Is there a, where else do we have it?
So we can have conditions, which is
Yes, general, probably general conditions or other relevant conditions.
So let's see, general construction, contain other relevant. We can put it in other relevant conditions if you want, Lisa.
Sure.
Okay.
It might even be a sentence in landscaping. You can add a sentence before that saying, all exposed soils shall be permanently stabilized at the end of the project. Does that
Or
work there?
disturbed, all disturbed areas. Permanently stabilized with loam and seed.
Is that following the project, or are we going to do that as in the project area?
I'm sorry.
Is in the project area, because there may be some areas on site that are not permanently stabilized.
So all exposed, all areas disturbed by construction activity. Yeah.
Okay. So that one was added there. Is there anything else? Did anyone have a good look at this? Dan, any questions?
I think we're good.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to issue the order of conditions for file 250-1128 as discussed.
Second.
Motion made by Lisa, seconded by Tama. A roll call vote beginning with Lisa and Ron.
Aye.
And I think that was an aye, Ron. And Mark and Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Tama?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. The motion carries. And now I believe we're up to draft minutes. I suppose we can do the 10th first. If you can bring them up, it'll just make it a little easier. I think the 10th was quite limited, if I recall. maybe we can scroll down. So Tama, you were there at that one, is that correct? Looks like.
Sorry, on the 10th?
On the 10th, oh, it was Lisa and Ron that were absent. Okay.
Yeah, I think I missed the 24th. but-
Right. So I didn't print these, but I didn't see anything on review. Anybody have any comments?
That was a pretty quick meeting, right? Just trying to,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
it
there
was.
wasn't a lot. Yeah, I don't have any comments.
So we can consider a motion accepting Lisa and Ron on this one. And I think we have, yeah, we have 4.
Second, did somebody?
No, I think you're gonna have to be a first, Dan, on this one.
Okay,
You have to make a motion
so moved.
and second, who's the second?
Second,
So a motion made by Dan, seconded by Tama to approve the minutes of July 10. Again, roll call vote with Mark and Dan
Aye.
and Tama.
aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, and we're gonna register abstentions for Ron and Lisa. And next item is July 24th. And again, just to review, so Tama was the only one absent, that's right. I had no issue with this. Anyone else have anything to bring up?
What's an RPA, Ron? I mean, Dan.
Where are we? Oh, site was done prior to the RPA.
I think it'd be WPA, Wetland Protection Act.
Yeah, but no, I think
No, I
John
think it's
did.
river
Was that
protection.
John's?
Rivers Protection Act. Okay, I was like,
Rivers Protection.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't that your? You said that, John.
Yeah.
That's why I had the little added the little note there, in case anyone wanted their own copy of the Rivers Protection Act.
Okay. I'm gonna mute you, Dan. Sorry.
Were you just using your death ray laser? All right, any comments on this set of minutes? I mean, there's the photo.
Yeah, there was. If you can put that screen back, there was a spelling error. It said faux instead of. Whoever was the representative for Bay Colony something or other, in that same line, it said faux.
I will have Megan make the change before we issue them.
Okay.
All right, looking for a motion for the July 24th minutes approval.
So moved.
Second,
Motion made by Ron, seconded by Lisa. Roll call vote, starting with Lisa and Ron,
Aye.
aye.
and Mark and Dan,
Aye.
Aye.
and Tomo will register an abstention. And I will throw in an aye. And now we have a report from staff.
I have nothing to really report as of late. Typical inspections, making sure everybody's in compliance with all the rain that we've been having, trying to make sure that everybody keeps to their projects and keeps the maintenance as they need to per the requirements. For upcoming projects, we got a couple in the wing, just waiting for some of them to solidify. We've got a couple large-scale development projects that will be coming through the door for the next meeting. And just be prepared for some other additional ones, and some additional butter input on some of those as well.
Okay, any noises about an additional member?
I've heard grumblings about it. I know I've talked to the select board. They've got a couple people that have been interested, but I've kind of discussed it with them to make sure that they send over a letter of intent to me and also the town manager, and I haven't received a letter of intent from any of them. So,
All right. Okay, so code of conduct, I didn't have time to look at that again. So anybody have any comments about that? I mean, I think it's kind of superfluous. We should know this. Apparently some people don't.
yeah, every board has been given this documentation and kind of procedure. So, if you have nothing else to report on it, I'll let the town management know, and hopefully they'll figure something out from their end.
All right. So we can consider a motion to close. And Peter, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good tonight.
Excellent.
Good tonight.
All right.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All right. Thank you, guys. And I'm signing off.